I'd like to call to order the Tuesday, March 20th, 2018 Brooklyn City Board of Education regular meeting. Mr. Street, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Neal?
Here.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Present.
Mr. Singer?
Here.
Mr. Hennings?
Here.
Mr. Oper?
Here. Everybody rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First thing we got is student achievement, intermediate school. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Glyko.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. Tonight we have our intermediate school, and Mr. Tansky, I think you'd like to present a teacher here tonight.
You know, before the board started taping, I noticed that all the board members were talking about their devices. Is it charged? Is it not charged? Is it plugged in? Is it not plugged in? You go back 20 years ago, would we have had those thoughts?
No.
Not at all. Last week, our students went through presentations for grades 4 through 12 along the lines of internet crimes against children. Those presentations were also offered to parents last week. Our fifth grade presentation is going to revolve around the topic of technology, but I wanted to throw a few things out to you before I turn it over to them. Back in 1998, Google began, and some of our teachers are getting Google training. I'm wondering, Mr. Neal, back in 1998, were you recommending to your clients to invest in Google at that point?
Not at all.
Imagine if we all did, okay? We may not know each other.
True.
But how it has changed our lives and how it's changed the world. As I look around the room, and if I don't identify, I'm not picking on you, most of us really come from Generation X. We may have a few baby boomers sprinkled in there somewhere. And I know right now Mr. Yarman wants to make fun of me because I probably fall into that group. I know, I'm still older than you. But what's weird about that is, as I look at Dr. Glykoff, who sends tweets out, or
And I'm an X.
there we go, you are an X. But back in our generation, or when we were younger, if we talked about a tweet, you might think that you mispronounced the word a little bit. But tweets are now popular as technology continues. Well, we've got this Generation Z now, or we might call them the digital generation, which we're now working with, training, and getting ready for them to take over the world as we all start thinking about retirement. If you need any help with that, check with Mr. Neal. He can probably help you out. I'm trying to give you some pointers.
I hear you. I hear you.
Gotcha. As we look at the
Didn't work for me.
technology debate, we could talk about how does it affect brain development or executive functions. We could talk about, does it help students, does it hurt students? Well, students nowadays may want everything to be fun or exciting or interactive, and that's not always the case. The one great thing about technology, though, is it does develop creativity within kids and within people. And as I look around the room and I see all of the teachers here today, as we're using technology and infusing it more into our classrooms, we can no longer use the excuse, my dog ate my homework. So there are many great things about technology. As I introduce my fifth grade team leader, I do want to say kudos to our fifth grade team because 3 of our members went to Google training this summer. Some people might think you get the summers off as a teacher. These teachers spent their time in Google Boot Camp and earned a certificate for what they did. Now they're taking their skills and applying it to the classroom. And I think what you're going to see tonight is an exciting rendition of just the beginning, or just where we're beginning to start here in Brooklyn, about infusing technology into our classroom. So with that, Mrs. Blome, I would like to turn it over to you.
Yes, fifth grade was awarded a Google Classroom card, Chromebooks. And so even though the kids aren't here this evening, you're going to see a presentation that's only done essentially by the kids, other than Mrs. Kuska videotaping some of the footage in her classroom. So with nothing further to do, we always do like to hook our own children in our classrooms. So we have created through iMovie a hook for you. Maybe. presentation, essentially done by the kids, sharing what we've done so far this year.
The fifth grade students have been challenged this year to create an ancient civilizations website to organize information discovered about the Mayas, Incas, Aztecs, and Mississippians. To accomplish this task, they were introduced to Google Sites. This has proven to be a great cross-curricular activity as English language arts, social studies, and technology standards are being addressed daily during social studies class. Our fifth graders have become very proficient using Google Sites and were taught how to add subpages, insert pictures or documents, create links to trusted websites, and cite the work they use to create their own website. This particular student, you'll notice, already has several subpages set up for each one of the civilizations. And if we go and explore some of the subpages, you'll find that additional strategies and skills were taught. So if I go to the Mayan cities, you'll notice that the students were taught how to link to a trusted website to provide additional information about the cities that were discussed. The students were also taught how to use some of the Google Classroom assignments that they completed and insert them into their website. So you'll notice that as we were studying ink and weaving, this particular student added their own information along with a picture, but then they also went ahead and added the Google Slides that they had created showing flashcards of the different vocabulary that we encountered in that lesson. Another example of inserting a Google Classroom assignment into our website can be seen in Aztec Warfare. This particular assignment was completed in Google Docs, and the students were then able to insert their document directly into the website to provide the information about Aztec Warfare. Google Classroom has been an amazing addition in the fifth grade classrooms this year. Students love accessing their assignments digitally or electronically and submitting them via the Chromebooks.
It's basically an awesome site where you have to sign into your Google Chrome and you can join classrooms. Like for math class for me, there's block 4 Miss Gomez's and block 2A is Miss Kufka and so on. And basically it's a site where you have assignments. Like I'm gonna open my social studies assignment and you see I have an ed puzzle, I have a Quizlet, and I have all other things. And it's a really cool site where you get like assignments. Like this one I already did and it was really cool.
Some fifth grade assessments have been made using Google Forms. The students are then able to access the assessment using Google Classroom and complete the test just like they would a paper pencil version. This should prove to be very beneficial as we get closer and closer to OSTs, where students will be completing their assessments on the computers.
Puzzles is an amazing website that lets you watch videos at your own pace, pause them when you need to, and you have to answer questions about the video that you're watching, and it tells you if you them right away, so that way you don't have to wait as if you're doing it on paper and pencil, and with the smartboard you wouldn't have to wait for your grade back.
Ed Puzzle in action.
Google Slides is almost like PowerPoint for Google users. We use it in social studies so we can like make flashcards to study before a test. Like we use this for ink and weaving.
Perhaps our number one favorite game to play in social studies is Kahoot.
Where your teachers can assign you, you can join a class and there's different ones you can do, and they give you games, or you can learn them, and in the games there's leaderboards, you can try to beat your friends.
So the kids have been a part of making the entire presentation. Obviously Quizlet and Kahoot have been the favorite by far, just so that the kids have friendly competition with each other, and motivates kids to want to be better and do things.
All right. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. Couple of notes there. I was, one of the things, and Mrs. Bloom mentioned it, and I think Mr. Tansky did as well. Her class, or the fifth grade, is one of several of the classroom grants of Chromebooks that we awarded this past year, and certainly that team has done wonderful work with it. It's exciting to see how they've done some engaging things like that, and how this team shares it. It's funny. Yesterday, I was meeting with some intermediate students. They were part of my student advisory for lunch, and one of the highlights that they spoke about for the year really was the engagement with technology. And so they thought that that is something they've seen even more of, and they like that. And certainly the Kahoot is popular not only in the intermediate school, but I see it also in the high school. A lot of the teachers there use it and have their students use their own devices. And so it's even a great way to just get quick formative assessment back on, some of the assignments. So kudos to the fifth grade team, and thanks for sharing tonight.
Appreciate it. Just so everybody knows, the board itself, prior to our last loss for the PI levy, our goal was to get technology in every classroom. The money, a lot of that money was going to be added through the PI levy. So from now on, we need that support. One of our last meetings, we all sat down and said, we want X amount of those carts. That was our goal, just so everybody knows that. We sat in the back room. I believe we ended up with, we wanted to add another 200 or 240, I believe. Mm-hmm. So just so you guys know, that was our goal as well with that money. So we need everybody's support in the next PI levy when it comes up. Thank you very much. Okay, next is comments from visitors. In order for the board to fulfill its obligation to complete the planned agenda in an effective and efficient fashion, a maximum of 30 minutes of public participation as it pertains to school-related topics will be permitted at each meeting. Each person wishing to address the board will approach the podium and state his or her name and address. If several people wish to speak, each person will be allotted 3 minutes until the total time of 30 minutes is used. During that period, no persons may speak twice until all who desire to speak have had opportunity to do so. The period of public participation may be extended by a vote of the majority of the board. Anybody like to speak? Name and address. Nobody? Thank you. We're going to go out to the superintendent's report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Neal. I'm going to refer to a PowerPoint tonight. I've got two items I really want to kind of deal with and talk through tonight. First is something that I've been talking with you, the board, about, and certainly there's something on tonight's about school building restructuring. So let me first kind of talk about my recommendation tonight that's in front of you. With that, you're going to see that there's a recommendation for the abolishment of 2 administrative positions and the suspension of 2 administrative contracts. And those are our elementary and our intermediate or middle school contracts. Why is that? Let me go through some of those, and I'll go into some greater detail with that. First of all, financial conditions affecting the school district. Mr. Neal, you shared a little bit with that, but certainly, and Mr. Street can speak of this, in terms of our finances, where we are, the great need for our immediate levy in terms of our renewal that's coming up, as well as probably future levies in terms of more additional dollars. That's critical. Also looking at reorganization of administrative functions and the consolidation of administrative functions. So those 3 are the big whys to that. But let me go into into a little more detail with that. So what do I mean in terms of reorganization and consolidation? So our current structure is such that in this new building we have actually 2 schools. We have our elementary and we have our intermediate school. We have one office area that's shared by 2 principals who work out of there. And we have some shared staff between the 2 schools itself. So makes for sometimes kind of a cramped and an awkward kind of structure and such. So what am I proposing in terms of that? It would be a unified school, meaning that we would have one unified school between. It would be a pre-K 7 in which we would have a single principal as well as a single assistant principal with that unified structure. What would be some of the benefits in terms of that? Certainly allows the district to operate and probably better operate within its financial means. So going back to what one of the first whys was in terms of finances, it certainly would be something that we could better operate within our means. And we all know that our means in terms of our revenues, by what the state and others are doing to us, is becoming tougher and tougher and less and less. It gives it also, in terms of instructionally consolidation, kind of an instructional unified voice for programming in terms of leadership. Certainly one of the things when I came aboard as your superintendent 2.5 years ago, you spoke about, what do you think about having all the schools under one roof? And I said, I welcome that. I think that gives it greater unification in terms of voice, professional development, unification of what we want to do as a learning community. And so this gives us even more so that ability to do that. Certainly greater efficiency. What do I mean by that? There's some duplication of what we do between the 2 schools currently. We have this structure perhaps for the intermediate and middle school. We have this structure for the elementary school. There's some duplicity in that. The facility itself lends itself to one kind of unified school. What do I mean by that? Well, when you think about the fact we have just one cafeteria, I talked about one office area. I think about the fact, really, we all as a complex share this particular area. Gymnasium, and the fact that there are some shared staff between the 2. So the facility itself lends itself to kind of a unified school here for the pre-K 7 within this complex. So this restructuring, what are some of the next steps with that? Certainly what you have in front of you in terms of the recommendation tonight. That's the abolishment of those 2 positions, the suspension of those 2 contracts at the end of this current school year. Then what you'll see in future board meetings is recommendations. What does this look like? What are the future recommendations of what will this consolidated unified school look like? What will those structures be? What will be some of the principal, assistant principal setup to that, and the structures thereat. And certainly this goes into the whole hopper of what we're looking at in terms of staffing for the 18-19 school year. And certainly we're in the midst of doing that, but we're also keeping one eye on May 8th, as we're all hopeful that we'll have the renewal levy pass. But certainly if we do not, May 9th is a whole other discussion that we're going to have. So that's kind of the timeline in terms of that. But I wanted to kind of lay out a little bit of what's in front of you with tonight's recommendation and what that means in terms of that. So, questions from the board in terms of that?
How can we reduce our administrative versus teaching instructional staff footprint? So what percentage, Dr. Gladkoff, are we spending in K through 7 on admin versus?
I'd have to get the exact figure, Mr. Singer, in terms of that, but it will be it will make us more cost efficient. There's no question about that in terms of that, but I can get you that figure.
Okay.
But that kind of goes into the whole staffing quotient. And one of the things that certainly Mr. Street and I are speaking and talking about right now in terms of staffing for next year. Because we need to look at what our projected revenues are in terms of what we will have in terms of tax receipts, as well as revenues from the state, albeit they're very small, but what can we do then with that? So. Second topic I wanted to kind of talk about, which I think we can continue to talk about all the time. And again, it seems like now we have another incident that happened in Maryland today. So again, this is starting to, it obviously concerns all of us. And so one of the things that I wanted to kind of share with the board tonight was, one of the things is our emergency operation plan continues to be a focus. It has to be. There was many folks within this room itself took a lot of time and energy really creating an emergency operations plan and developing that so we had some clear. So that's been a focus. We've had some district meetings. The end of February, we actually had an all-district meeting on the 28th. We had one in the morning. We also had a couple in the afternoon where this was reviewed. Officer Meadows was a part of that, as well as others, really kind of refreshing our understandings about this, but also kind of getting some input and some questions from folks about some of the things. Although they were bigger group settings, we still wanted to kind of go through that. Additionally, each of the schools had a staff meeting, I think it was actually last Wednesday morning, in which they went through and their EOP teams actually conducted the meeting. So hopefully they went through those and actually and had some specifics, because certainly how a school reacts, certainly how our elementary school reacts to that is different than how our high school does. And so they went more, those EOP teams went into specifics with each of those areas and really kind of talked through some of that. This week is a week that the EOP really spoke about, kind of making it a kind of a school safety week. And I hate to even call it just that we're going to concentrate all of our efforts there, but it really is a week where some of the scenarios, some of the drills are being practiced, and really there's a lot of discussion with classrooms where teachers are saying, hey, you know, in the high school they're going through almost period by period. Hey, I'm on the second floor today and during period 1. What would I do if this or this? Now I'm in second period and I'm down on the first floor. Maybe I'm in the English wing. Maybe I'm down in the band room. So depending on where you are, there's different scenarios that we're going through. Certainly there's a variety of drills that we want to practice. And we're doing this all with full knowledge with our students. So they understand, hey, this is what's going on and this is the drill that we're practicing. So there's been a lot of time spent with that, going forth with that. And then on Thursday this week, we actually have a school safety forum in our high school. We have that planned for Thursday at 1 o'clock. That really came from, you know, some of the incidents of last month. We had some students who came to us and said, you know, I'm concerned, you know, as they should be, about school safety and what kind of questions they may have about what's happening at school? How can we feel safe? What are the things that we're doing? And so we've had that open invite for students. That'll be at 1 o'clock on Thursday, and that should be a good time for us to be able to, and it was really student-oriented. A lot of our student council in the high school have generated that. And so it'll be a good opportunity for us to hear some of the concerns, and especially now this week as we're doing some of the drills, be able to say, what are some other things that we should be mindful of? What other things should we really kind of take into account as we move forward with this? You know, but school safety for all of us, and I put all in myself in that, we all need to stay vigilant. And communication and awareness is critical, and I would say that even to myself as well. Some of the things that I've heard from staff is that I need to be more communicative about the situations that are occurring and how we do that, so that we make sure and everybody knows the things that are going on. But I think we have to make sure that we have that awareness of what's happening and what we're doing. Although I think we benefit here in Brooklyn by our size, by the ability that we know our students so well, and that there's that close-knit community feel here, and that we've got it. But nevertheless, that doesn't mean that we should put our guard down in terms of trying to keep that communication close. Mr. Tansky referenced this. Last week, school safety also, we have to be mindful of social media when we speak about it. And last week, we had 3 bigger presentations by Internet Crimes Against Children with our students. And those went down even to 4th grade. And I'll be honest, the first time we were a little concerned, like, oh, is that too low? But when we started asking those students if they could name those different apps, that group was 11 for 11. And they nailed it. And so what that tells us is we need to really be vigilant to be able to talk to them about what are the things that they need to be mindful of and concerned about. And then certainly later that week, we talked with our parents about that, of the ways that they can also keep their children safe with that. So that's an important piece, because that's also the communication piece that our students use today in order to communicate either with friends or with others, or with perhaps people they don't know, and that could compromise our safety here at school. So, and really with that is, keep reiterating the stay safe, speak up. We have this hotline available. It's right on the front page of our website. It has a phone line. It has a line where they can actually come in and type. It's anonymous. Parents, students, anybody can go into that. And they can say, hey, I heard this, or this is something that, may happen. It could be bullying, it could be harassment, it could be school safety, it could be the gamut of things. Nevertheless, it comes to many of us as administrators, building principals immediately. And they will analyze that quickly. And if it also warrants a phone call to a particular administrator, it'll also do that immediately. So, that's something we continue to try to trumpet, so people are realizing that we've got to stay safe. And it's interesting, I see more and more schools are having things like this. So we've got to be able to make sure that our community is aware of that, and our kids are aware of it, and our parents are aware of it, and obviously our staff is aware of that. So, I kind of think that school safety is going to be one of those topics that we're going to continue to be talking about. And it's probably the right thing to do.
Continuous.
So that is my report for tonight.
Appreciate it. Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Glykoff, kind of interesting. I've been reading up, especially this new shooter in Maryland at Great Mills. The boy was an honor student, and I guess he had a relationship with the girl that he shot. But it was kind of interesting. He was also a student in school. The question that I would ask is, do we know where every student is or should be as far as every classroom? Do we have any way of knowing where every student is at any particular time? Because now it's starting to come out that he's already telegraphed some of his intentions early, and people were out looking for him. So I'm just wondering if we have the capacity to know where every student is during the school day.
Well, certainly every student has a schedule. So, I mean, any of our secretaries would say, hey, if they called up and they said, hey, I need to get a hold of Mark Glykoff, they're going to say, oh, Right now, it's 10:30, he's in fourth period, he's in so-and-so class. Or if, in the elementary and the intermediate, it's probably a little bit easier to say, oh, he's in, Mrs. Burke's class, so I'm going to call up to blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I think the other thing, I thought you were going to go someplace else with
Well,
this.
Mike, the second part of that question is the speed of implementation.
Yeah.
How fast can we access that information? Is it something that's digitized, or is it something where you have to go pull a file and say this student?
Everything's on our computers now. Everything is. Which is a good point, because one of the things we're talking about in terms of drills is also reunification plans. Because, what if there's a point where we have to evacuate this facility? Or some of the classrooms have to evacuate. And that's why having all this material on digital is important. And we're talking about that as a central office team, because we're talking about how we're deploying ourselves in those situations as well. And what things we need to have technology capability so that if we have a reunification, let's say at the stadium, we need to make sure that we can support our schools who know those kids by face, but being able to have the material so they can either call the parents, contact the parents, whatever the case may be. I think the thing that I was going to say, which you reminded me of it, is also looking at the mental health of our students. And we can't do enough of that. One of the things that we got training through the first ring this past summer was mental health first aid. The first ring superintendent's grant got a grant for mental health first aid training for all the schools. And so we had Mr. Ross get trained in that, and now he's actually doing some of that with other staff members. That's another thing we can't do enough of. Because certainly our kids today deal with a lot more than we can even imagine, and much more than what we dealt with, it seems. So how to try to support them during this time of growth and uncertainty in their lives. So I think that's a critical element that I should have noted even earlier with that.
Yeah.
So
Anybody else? Thank you.
thank you.
On to the Treasury report. Mr. Street.
Thank you. To piggyback off what Dr. Glykoff had mentioned about finances, we have 3 operating levies that are due renewals in the next 3 years. May 8th is the first one of those 3. So we're challenged with where the levies have fallen on the calendar to where we will have to put an operating levy up each of the next 3 years just for renewals. I was hoping that we could break even this year by extra revenue coming in, watching our expenses, but we're not going to be able to break even this year where our expenses will exceed our revenues for the year. And some of that has to do with just the services that we provide kids, which are a good thing. There's some state mandates built in there, and those services can fluctuate from year to year for the services for the kids that we have to purchase outside the district because of the specialized service. Some of that money is recouped from the state. We will submit to the state for what they call catastrophic cost. And we can receive some of that money back, but it doesn't cover all of it. And then also, we get reimbursed for the Medicaid services that are provided for the kids. A lot of people on the outside wouldn't understand that there are services that are provided in the schools for the kids that Medicare can cover, but we pay the cost, and Medicare does provide some reimbursement for that. So. We're fortunate that way, but this year we're not going to be able to basically break even on some of those costs. So, we are at since new money was passed in this district 5 years ago. That's a typical cycle for most districts, and we're not asking for new money at this time. That the May 8th is just a renewal. But we absolutely need the support of everyone to just renew the money that we currently have so that we can continue the programming that we have And then as we finish out the year, as Dr. Glykoff had mentioned, we'll have to review and analyze what our projected revenues are from county property taxes, from the state, and as we've talked about many, many times, the tangible personal property tax that was repealed by the state 10 or more years ago now, and we have been getting a declining reimbursement from the state. Every year we're fighting that battle to somehow renew that revenue or cut our expenses to make up for that loss. And at some point, and we've talked about this as a board, and Dr. Glykoff and I, we just can't outrun that loss of revenue. But right now, we're just concentrating on May 8th to be able to pass this renewal to continue what we have in this district. So I open it up to if anybody has any questions.
I have a question, John. When it comes time to do the budget, if we can't submit, now we submit the budget to the state, right?
We don't have to submit the budget to the state. My budget just comes to you folks.
Right. We can't even approve a budget that doesn't even, it's not even balanced, is it?
You can't approve a budget because we do have enough cash in surplus from year to year. But as we spend more in one year than we take in revenue, that cash that we have in surplus goes down.
Right.
So we can overspend from year to year, but when we physically run out of cash, that's where twice a year I have to put in a 5-year forecast to the state. So that could be considered submitting the budget to the state. And let's say that this May 8th did not pass, I cannot include that in the budget to the state, to the 5-year forecast. I would have to talk to the state and say, you know, if we would happen to fail this levy, I would have to tell them, you know, I need you to come in and look at our books and provide some guidance on what we should do, because if we would happen to fail again in November, we would be in a lot of trouble. We would have to go to the state for help.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, I've been there before when I first started my career, and the state will come in and say, you know what, you have to help yourself. We'll tell you, you have to go to state minimums, you have to make these cuts, you have to raise this revenue, but you're not getting anything from us. You have to do it yourself. You're on your own. But they will make sure that we keep our doors open, but we have to do it on our own.
So will they make cuts or tell us where to make cuts, or?
We will have to, like Parma did, we will have to submit a plan of how we will balance the budget going forward. When I show that we run out of cash in, let's just say, 3 years, they have, and if we would fail this levy, then it would be a lot sooner than that. They would say, how are you going to make that up? Where, you know, here, we can take you to state minimums, this is what it would look like, and then they could give us suggestions, say, yes, you should go there to balance this budget.
And if they didn't like what we did, would they kind of say, well, we're not kind of liking that, we're going to tell you to do it this way?
I think they could. I mean, really, we have to be in control of it. We have to come up with our own plan, but it has to work.
Okay.
I mean, we can't come up with something that doesn't work and they'll say, okay, it's, even if they're draconian cuts, and if, as long as they work, the state will say, yep, go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
But it would be a combination of cuts and really new money. I mean, we won't be able to get away from that. Every school district has to pass new money at some point in time.
Thank you.
John?
Good.
Just, excuse me if I've got the House bill wrong, but I think it was House Bill 12. Is there any progress on Brooklyn's carve-out with state foundation money? Has it progressed any as far as the legislation?
I'm not sure, I'm not familiar with House Bill
Fair.
12.
Is that 8?
512.
The fair share.
512.
That's the,
That's the
that's the reorganization of the State Board of
Reorganization of-
Education.
Yeah, but what's the House bill I'm talking about
I think that's
then?
Senate Bill 8.
Senate Bill 8, that's carving out Brooklyn's foundation money?
It's the
Well,
modification of,
Or you could be speaking of House Bill 369,
I'm sorry, that's the one I was thinking of.
which is
I've
the
got
one
confused.
that, Representative Sweeney has proposed, that is a more of a foundation for us, that's really a carve-out for us. Yeah.
Where's that at?
That got introduced, we did testimony last month. I don't think it's advanced beyond one testimony, so
it hasn't yet.
So it's still in committee?
it's still in committee.
And as I've mentioned before, whenever I talk to anybody at the state, I said, what can we do about the situation where really Brooklyn is not fairly funded? And they said, well, you have to talk to your legislature, because the individuals at the State Department really can't do anything about it. And so that's where the board and Dr. Glykoff have talked to our representatives and come up with this House bill that we hope will pass whenever it does come up to put on the budget for basically what we call fair share funding for Brooklyn, where we would receive at least the amount of money that parochial schools or non-public schools would get, because Brooklyn, we only receive about $700 from the state per student. You always hear that $6,000 per student figure, but by the time that the formula kicks in, where there's a state funding formula, it cuts us all the way down to $700 per kid. The parochial schools can get $1,200, was it?
$1,209.
$1,209 per student. So we're just asking for that, which would really help a long way in where we go financially. Also, charter schools, where we're always trying to bring the kids that have gone to charter schools from Brooklyn. We've always been trying to bring them back. Every school district has that challenge where when a student leaves their district, the state takes the full amount of funding. So even though the state only gives us $700 per student, when a student leaves Brooklyn for a charter school, they get that charter school gets $6,000. It's just a really strange way that, in our opinion, that it gets funded. But that's some of the challenges that we have, and we're always trying to work with, going through the legislature, any means we can to bring money back and to balance the books here at Brooklyn.
Anybody else? Thank you. That's why May 8th is extremely important to us. We got to take it one levy at a time, and eventually, we all know this up here, we need new money within the next few years on top of the 3 levies that we got to renew in the next 3 years. We're going to have to go to it's just going to have to be. So, thank you, Mr. Street. We're going to go on to comments from board members and board committee reports. Our leader today is Mr. Hennings.
Thank you, Rocky. The rec board met last night, and they hammered out a few things, some things they wanted me to repeat to everyone in the audience. They'll be starting private swim lessons. For residents, it's $60. For non-residents, it's $75, and for Parma, it's $67.50. You can contact the rec center if you're interested. Ages are 5 and up. The summer youth baseball registration is March 1st through March 31st. Birth certificates must be presented at registration. Prices for resident, once again, are $55, non-resident is $75, and 3-year-olds are $50. Non-residents also would be $65 if they attend Brooklyn City Schools. Oh, like St. Thomas More, something like that, all right. The Brooklyn Rec Department is also having their Friday night skate. The theme will be Cleveland Sports, which will be, again, April 13th, 2018. And May 4th, 2018 would be Cinco de Mayo skating. For those of you with kids, Camp Brooklyn is coming back again. Registration May 1st through June 1st. Camp dates to be announced. And as of right now, they're coming up with June 11th to July 12th, offering 4 different age groups this year: 5 and 6-year-olds, 7 and 8-year-olds, 9 and 10-year-olds, and 11 and 12-year-olds. Students must be 5 years of age to participate. The pricing would be for Brooklyn residents, $275, and $345 would be a corporate fee for like St. Thomas More, Heritage Christian, Parma Heights. The Brooklyn Spring Easter egg hunt will be Saturday, March 24th at 11 a.m. Registration begins at 10:30. Resident children 6 and under, and they'd like you to bring a basket. Also, I'd like to thank the City of Brooklyn for the Brooklyn High School Graduate Pass. What that means is for all the seniors who graduate, they're allowing them 90 days free to participate in any of the events, swimming, working out, ice skate, whatever it is, from June 1st to August 31st, and there's no cost to any of them. So for 90 days, they get to go up to the rec center for free and use whatever they want. And I think it's probably a way of trying to draw more people in after that. So thanks to the city of Brooklyn. And from what I'm hearing, it was Matt O'Brien who started this a couple years ago. So way to go, Matt. Let's see. Next, I know Vern's standing back there. Where are you at? Raise your hand, Vern. I know. I want to thank Vern Cutright for all his work with the Youth Basketball League. With his coaching, basketball is looking very bright for the middle school. I want to say great job to Miss Rachel Verba and the 7th grade girls. They went undefeated all year long in their division. They kicked them girls' butts all the way from here back to Wellington, I'll tell you that much. The championship game was a really great game, and I think that the one girl from the play, she outscored the whole other team. So what was her name? Carabella? Genesis, yeah. I think she scored more points than the whole other team. She outscored them all. So, with her, I'll tell you what, Brooklyn has got some really good girls coming up for girls basketball. I know we're all real proud of them. They're the PAC champs, so fantastic. Also, we're all very proud of Ryan Kelber. Great job with another hockey championship. I know you and the team wanted more, but between injuries and the flu, it was pretty hard, but back-to-back Blue Diamond champs, that's great. Also, I'd like to talk about a little bit about the youth sports. We have quite a few youth sports out there. We have football, basketball, hockey, and wrestling. Please take advantage of all the youth sports out there. I mean, Vern's back there. If you got kids, please feel free to, get them involved in the youth sports. The wrestling youth sport is run by my brother-in-law, who is a two-time world champ with the Swite Chow fighting. Yeah, that Swite Chow fighting thing. So right now he qualifies. He can be in the Olympics at any point if he truly wanted to be it. He qualifies for the Olympics. So with the wrestling program he runs, I'm sure Taylor would love to have I know Taylor's going to be, grateful to have these youth coming up. So please give that a consideration when you're looking for something for your kids to do. We have the football, and we all know we have quite a array of kids from this area in the youth football. So please keep it going. And hockey the same way. I do believe we have the hockey youth football league. The hockey youth league also. So please get your kids involved. Don't let them sit around playing PlayStation. I just can't stand to see kids playing Xbox or PlayStation. It's such a waste of time. With the beginning of spring, yeah, right. It seemed like winter, never ends, but we had a lot of great things happen here in the school, which brought the community together. Starting with the All Nations Festival, that was back in what, February, January? Yeah, that was put on Cleveland.com, the local news. We had a great time that day with that. We had a great wrestling tournament. We only missed winning the championship by what, 2 points? You were telling me 2 points, Taylor, was the PAC championship?
In the dual part, yeah, the tournament was fixed.
Yeah. But we only lost the dual by 2 points, you're saying?
Yeah, by 1 match.
That's fantastic. I tell you, we haven't been that close in quite a while. We had 2 wrestlers go to state and finish in the top 16 in each of their weight divisions. Andrew Zarin set the record for the most high school wins for Brooklyn. And Seth Majewski is on track to shatter that record next year, correct? Yep. Congratulations to Jelly for scoring over 1,000 points in her high school career. The athletic boosters had an extremely well-attended night at the races. I want to thank all the businesses and the residents that donated baskets to auction off. It was very successful. Mary Kaplan and Norm Kaplan, thank you for the making the patio furniture. I think that was, for the hockey team, and I think that got the most tickets. So, that was well appreciated. I think it was the top getter. Yeah. I'd like to thank the mayor and the city council for all their donations. And not just for the night at the races, but for the senior night with fireworks. Those are very costly, and so everybody knows the school pays for none of that. That money is all solicited from the businesses and the board members and people like Andy and everybody else who donates very generously. So for now, you can put your checkbooks away. I won't be bothering you till August. And the same goes for you guys. You can put your checkbooks away too. You're in the clear. With the help of our levy committee, Dr. Glykoff and his administration and the board members had a fantastic spaghetti dinner. And thank you to Councilman Pucci for registering all the kids who were 18 that I managed to drag in from the stage crew, the play, and the pit band. And anybody else who had walked through that door that said they were 18, I dragged them over to her. They had about 15 kids register for voting, so that was great. We also had 2 students from Polaris. Jim, I hope I'm not stepping on your toes here. We had 2 students participate at the state level for the Polaris Business Competition. Marcello Carasalia took 6th in the prepared speech, and Jelly Benz, I don't know what she took, and maybe you know, Jim.
I have it here.
Okay.
Save it for later.
Okay. It's a teaser.
She placed in human resources. Both students did very well in the student participation. We also had the power of the pen. Just what was it yesterday? From what I heard, they did very well for that also. Thursday, we'll be having a music festival in the main gym tomorrow, so please come out and check them out. $5 for adults, $3 for kids. I believe that starts at what, 6 o'clock? 7? Is it 7?
That's tomorrow.
Tomorrow night, yeah.
Wednesday.
Right. Also coming up will be the Taste of Brooklyn. That'll be on April 28th. The Brooklyn Jazz Band will be performing there again with great food and always baskets that just get better and better every year. The cost is $15 for pre-sale and $20 at the door. The tickets include food, beer, wine, and entertainment. We'll also be selling the raffle tickets for a chance at the gift baskets and the 50-50 tickets. If you are interested in sponsoring the event, the cost is $200. All sponsors receive 2 admission tickets for the event. So thank you very much, Andy. And last but not least, Beauty and the Beast. What can you say about that? Under the supervision of Mrs. Cipriani, Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Casper, and Mr. Black, they put on one of the best musicals I've seen in a long time. 175 of our kids put together a fantastic set. They spent many hours, many nights learning their lines, learning dance steps. The pit band had to learn many new numbers on top of the music they had to learn for the festival, the jazz band music, and their OMEA competition. And as always, the stage crew worked very hard putting the castle together, getting the props together, laying out the lights for the castle, painting the castle. The castle was completely built by our kids. Every single one of those kids, very little work was done by the adults. They were just there keeping an eye on them. But it was all put together by our kids. I know they worked many hours getting there because my son Logan was there until about 8 o'clock at night. They spent hours getting their timing down, when and what furniture to bring out for each scene. And believe me, that water fountain that they built was the biggest pain in the butt. It leaked every single time. We finally had to buy baby pools to put in there to keep all the water in there because there was no way I was letting them get that water all over the stage. I know the seniors were very, very, very bummed when the play ended. They know there's no next year for them coming back, so, there was a lot of crying when that curtain closed for the last time. But then the underclassmen, they can't wait till next year. And as always, I want to thank the music boosters, the PTSA, and the athletic boosters for always supporting and attending these events. Thank you to Mrs. Luanawansus, who, believe me, with those costumes the way they were, she spent a lot of time sewing. She brought her own sewing machine in here, and it was like every night she had 3 or 4 costumes to fix. If that was left up to the stage crew, I'll tell you what, there would have been a lot of staples in those costumes, because that's about all they knew how to do was use staples to fix anything. They were huge and they were flimsy. So again, thank you very much. We had a great winter, and I look forward to all the same things for next year. And that's all I have, and I know that was a lot.
That's all you have?
Yeah, that's all I
You
got.
spend all night doing that.
Yeah, I know.
All right, we're gonna go on to, thanks, Bob. Mrs. Barczyk.
Thank you, Mr. President. That's probably your longest
I know.
report ever.
It was the whole winter.
Yeah, I think that's a culmination of all your reports. Aren't as long as that one. It's a hard act to follow. So I'm not going to repeat everything he said. I'll just gloss over some of the things that are on my list. I would like to thank Mr. Tansky for that presentation, and Mrs. Bloom, I don't know where you are, for that presentation. Thank you so much. It was amazing. Thank you for the hook. You had me hooked from the start. It was great, and it's good to see our kids and how they're interacting. As a board, like Mr. Neal said, our vision is to see Chromebooks in every classroom. We would like to have every student have a Chromebook. That is really what we want as a board. Finances are what they are, so, but that is where we want to go. We do realize how much it would bring to each of you to have it in your classrooms and how much it would help and what it would bring to our students. So just know that we realize that, and it is a priority for us, and it is something that is on our agenda. I would like to thank everyone for their help and support at the spaghetti dinner. Everyone who donated a basket, volunteered. I want to thank Mrs. Neal for all the hard work, Mrs. Copland, Mrs. Vercio, all of our staff, and everyone who came and volunteered. Thank you so much. It was a great success. Wonderful evening. The play, like Mr. Henning said, was phenomenal. It was truly amazing. Our kids are it's amazing the talent we have in such a small city, 1,300 kids, and that play was something that, personally for me, I don't think Broadway has anything that can touch us, but hey, that's just me. I'm kind of biased, but I think that we should really be proud of what our kids are doing here. And it's something that the community, the thing that I love about the play is so many people from the community come and get to see the kids and all the positives and something happening in the school that's a good thing, and they don't have to just hear, it isn't just for the levies or when we need a renewal or anything. The plays really kind of bring the community together. I'd like to wish all the spring sports good luck. Spring, when it may come, or yeah, it is Cleveland. We may get snow. That's how we welcome in spring. Speaking of the levy, we do need the levies. I know it's kind of preaching to the choir, more than anybody else, but we do. We need the levies. We need your support. The levies are important for everyone. It's important for the community, but I know you know better than anybody else what those levies mean to each and every one of us and each and every one of you and all those students that walk in the door every day. So May 8th, we really need the support of the community to come out, and it's no new money. And so if you have any questions, please reach out to us, Dr. Gleichoff, and we will be going around at the community and speaking to the residents and answering any questions that they may have or want to engage the community so that we can get this passed, because it is that important. I hope everyone has a good spring break and a happy Easter. I can always be reached at 216-406-4304. Thank you, Mr. President.
You got it. On to Mr. Singer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to again thank Mrs. Bloom and her fifth graders for the great presentation tonight. It rings true with what Mr. Tansky has said about the fact that when I was in fifth grade, we had no such thing. I don't think even computers were around when I was in fifth
They
grade.
didn't have fluorescent lights.
Did they have paper yet? Was there?
But we did have, I did have
Wait a
nuns
minute, I'm
with
that age
triangular
too. Hold on.
rulers. I'd like to remind again, and I know I'm kind of segueing off of what Mr. Henning said. Great presentation, Bob. I should say dittos on everything here. But I do again want to remind everybody about the spring concert tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock to support our future Cleveland Orchestra members. I think it's $5 to get in. And you'll hear some great music.
You want me to go over it and check?
And I think they're doing something different this year with the different grades playing different tunes, so it should be interesting how that works out. I did have the privilege of going to Oberlin College this past Saturday to witness our 7th and 8th graders that were involved in the Penn Ohio project. We're waiting on word, I guess, to see if Brooklyn made it in the top 50, so we can go on to Ohio competition. State competition. We should be very proud of our writers, the future authors. One of the things I would like to see as a board member and for our administration to get more involved with is maybe to bring in some guest authors. You know, Cleveland is blessed. We have a lot of people who are published, recognized authors, maybe to bring them into our schools and expose them to our maybe 6th and 7th graders. I see the other schools that took some of the highest awards do that. And, you know, as teachers, you know, sometimes we like to be experts on everything, but we can't. And I got to tell you, I was so impressed. They brought an author by the name of Mr. Watkins. He didn't go by Mr. Watkins. I think KJ Watkins. He was a rapper, and he wrote an interesting book about his life in Baltimore, but he really, he kicked it, I guess that's his term. He really communicated to the kids in the audience, and that was impressive because there are authors out there that can really communicate with our kids better than I can as a parent or as a board member. We need more of that these children need to see that writing as a career is a possibility. And you know, it takes a lot of hard work and determination, but as he had mentioned, you know, there are some future authors in our audiences, and especially in Brooklyn. I'd like to thank all who attended the ICAC Internet Crimes Against Children Town Hall here in Brooklyn this past week. I didn't get a chance to attend this one, but I did one earlier, a couple of years ago, and it really opened up my eyes to the Snapchats and everything else the kids get on, the sexting that goes on. And I shake my head sometimes with all the technology. As much as we laud the technology, it could also be a real bane to our children. So I hope everybody who attended learned something about the crime prevention against our children. I want to say kudos to our treasurer, John Street, and his staff on our recent fiscal 17 audit findings. Really dry material, folks. But I went through a lot of it, and I found, you know, we're in good shape. As far as the state auditor says, you know, we're in good shape as far as how we spend our money. And that report should be available, I believe. It'll be available for the next 60 days on my email.
But I didn't get a chance to read the email, but I think it's on the Auditor of State's website now.
Okay. I was going to say, I'll try to figure out where they can find it.
Yeah, because it was released, but it's not always released to their website, but I think it's on there now.
Okay.
And I'll get it up on the Brooklyn website too.
You know, it's kind of funny that I happened to read through the audit, and one thing that rings true to me was when I was at the town hall at the Acres, a lot of the people said, you know, you guys are wasting money. You guys are spending money wastefully. You don't know how you're spending the money or where you're spending the money. Well, I got to tell you, you know, I had a privilege of being an auditor many, many years back, and it was impressive to see how well we do spend our money. That we are frugal. We always find ways to save our money. And not to put a feather in my cap, it really goes to the treasurer and administrative staff here, Dr. Glykoff, that we came out so well. Again, this year's musical was a grand success. I'm a big theater buff, and I just loved it. It brought tears to my eyes. So, a lot of fun. I saw the kids, you know, all the seniors, the juniors, all the kids that were involved in the production just had a blast. They had a lot of fun. And even got to be served hamburgers at midnight by Mr. Hennings outside of the auditorium.
Sure did.
So I think it was, about 20 degrees outside?
Yeah. It was cold.
I also want to thank the volunteers, the booster volunteers. I got to tell you, you know, I never went to Brooklyn, but I'm so impressed with how the Brooklyn boosters, the athletic boosters, the musical arts boosters, how much they support our children in the programs. And a big thanks out to all of you. I do want to thank Rob Slattery and the Acres Board for hosting the last town hall. We had a nice little crowd, but a lot of people brought up some good questions. And more importantly, I want to thank Dr. Glykoff. Dr. Glykoff put together a really nice presentation on the need for issue 4 passing. Again, I'm going to put on my little hat about one thing that's missing in Brooklyn. And I'm glad we have a nice crowd here because I'm sure we have some Brooklyn alumni here. We really need to reach out a little further with Brooklyn Schools alumni about forming our Brooklyn Alumni Association Foundation, setting up a 501c3 specifically for academic performance, field trips, scholarship, and just gathering the names of those interested in building a scholarship endowment fund. If you're alumni from Brooklyn, I'd love to hear from you. You can text me or you can call me at 216-978-1931 if you'd like to participate. One of the things that we're kind of moving forward towards this is Dr. Glykoff and his staff are accumulating more and more data on some of our past alumni. I went to Cathedral Latin, if anybody remember Cathedral Latin, now NDCL, and our alumni foundation has well over $1 million in endowment, and that's what they work off of for scholarship and for activities that the school cannot pay for or will not pay for. So, I really believe that we can get enough money to work off every year that endowment, the interest that we make off that endowment, and move towards maybe giving us some other scholarships or supporting some of the school activities the teachers like to do and the school can't afford. Please consider showing your support of our issue 4 by displaying a new yard sign on your lawn. You can call Pam Burkio, our levy chair, at 216-496-9276. We'll drop it off, we'll pick it up after the campaign. I plan on walking the Wilkins streets, even with my artificial right knee. My wife tells me I'm gaining too much weight, I should walk anyway, but I gotta tell you, for all of you out there in the audience, I know we have a lot of teachers out here, I really appreciate the fact that you're out there walking. And you'll have a board member walking with you, maybe not fast or as diligently and vigilantly as you'd like, but I think what we need to do is do more than just drop off signs and door hangers and yard signs. We really need to speak to the people because there's so much misperception out there about what the schools do, and maybe just people just aren't going to support the schools no matter what. But I don't believe that. There are a lot of people, I heard that at town hall, that people want to support the schools. Somebody needs to talk to them and tell them why we need the money and how we spend the money and what our kids are doing. And I apologize as a board member. I know our communication could be much better than it is as school administration. We need to do a better job. As teachers, I'm sure you didn't take any marketing one-on-one classes. I think most of our principals never took any marketing classes. These days our schools have to promote themselves and market. We have to market out to the public because we have competition out there, folks. We have the charter schools, the parochial schools. We've got the internet schools and everything else that we compete with. And I still say that we provide the best education in Brooklyn. And we need to convince a lot of our voters of that. We can't afford to lose this emergency levy. So the best way to reach me, again, I do get text or calling me at 216-978-1931. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Mr. Singer. On to Mr. Roper.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to thank Mrs. Blom and the fifth grade class for all the technology advances. And coming from somebody that used to do his homework on cave walls, so it's much appreciated. Polaris meeting this month, we discussed and we voted affirmatively to break up the bid package for construction into 2 parts. The reason for this is because it was due to the long lead time for certain parts because of the renovation at Quicken Loans and the surge in a lot of other building projects in the area. Door frames and doors and electrical packages take a lot longer. This puts the order in on time, so it won't delay the project. The other part of my Polaris thing, Bob took care of, so that's a big X now.
Sorry, bud.
Nope, sorry. And Mr. Singer also mentioned House Bill 512. It's a bill that creates the Department of Learning and Achievement by combining the Department of Education, Ohio, with the Ohio Department of Higher Education and the Governor's Workforce Transformation, and it basically creates another big layer of bureaucracy. One kind of thing I thought was kind of interesting, that the sponsor of the bill blasted the State Board of Education for passing a resolution in opposition to legislation. Well, duh. According to an article, he described the State Board as interference with the internal deliberations of the legislature. In other words, nothing to see here, move along, or to use another analogy, nobody's paying you to speak, just shut up and dribble. The sponsor also said that the education system is broken and the merger of the state board is a way to fix the schools. If the education system needs fixing, state officials might wish to put together, I don't know, maybe a way to fund schools fairly and to stop the financial drain for charters and vouchers. Also, not to get too political, but if anybody saw the 60 Minutes last week with the interview with Betsy DeVos, the Secretary of Education, I sincerely hope you were embarrassed as I was. To think that someone like this with little real-world knowledge of the department is that they are leading actually is coming up with a policy that affects the lives of millions of children, and when asked if she should perhaps visit underperforming schools to better understand why they're underperforming, she sat there like deer in the headlights and said, "Gee, maybe I should." That might be better to look at than making sure that schools in Wyoming have more guns to fight off grizzlies. Finally, I can also always be reached at james.oper@brooklyn.k12.oh.us or 216-485-8195. And to piggyback on everybody else, issue 4, we need it. It's a renewal, no new taxes, and we don't want the state coming in here like they did, about a dozen years ago, I believe.
Yep.
And that was messy. So that's all I got, Mr. President.
Thank you. Just to reiterate, congrats, thanks everyone, the 5th grade, the play, everything like that. Would like to thank the endorsements for the levy, Brooklyn Acres Board, Brooklyn City Council, very important. April 3rd, 6:30, issue 4, the levy committee has a meeting, I believe it's in this room, so if you want to help out, we'll be here. I think everybody else covered everything else, so we'll move on to approval of minutes and financial statements. Our reader tonight's going to be Mr. Hennings.
Be resolved, the minutes of the following Board of Education meeting be adopted, and all action taken by the Board of Education at said meeting is hereby reaffirmed and approved. Special meeting, February 8th, 2018. Regular meeting, February 20th, 2018. Special meeting, February 26th, 2018. Special joint meeting with City Council, March 6th, 2018.
Can I have a motion, please?
moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Mr. Street, can you call the roll?
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Be resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the financial statements of receipts and expenditures for the month of February 2018, including all purchases, all purchase orders paid, and all then and now statements for the month of February as submitted.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second? Questions, comments?
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Questions, comments? Mr. Street, anything? You went through it all?
No,
Everything?
if you just, my cash flow statement is on there, if you want to look at that at some point or review that. It just shows where we are financially coming towards the end of the year.
We do have a finance meeting in the morning, correct?
We do have a finance meeting in the
All
morning.
right, at 8:15? Right. All right. Anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll?
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education wishes to participate and authorize the Ohio Schools Council to advertise and receive bids on behalf of said board as per the specifications submitted for the cooperative purchase of waste and recycling services for the period of July 1, 2018 through June 30th, 2021. It is understood there is no fee to participate in the Ohio School Council 2018 to 2021 Waste and Recycling Program on file in the Treasurer's Department.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second? I'll second it. Questions, comments?
Yeah, Mr. Neal, the key there is Ohio Schools Council. We work with Ohio Schools Council. What they're actually, this resolution is that you're saying, OSC, you can go out and bid for us our waste and recycling piece, and we'll go to the lowest bidder, so.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll?
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Nay.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby accepts, with regret, the following retirement effective June 30th, 2018. Fran Molinari.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Fran, thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna do a commendation here. It's, 21 years. I recall when she started with us back then. And, it's a tough one because she's really been here a lot. And certainly the constraints that's put on her in terms of food service today is, I think she's frustrated with that, as we all are, but it's limited that. But, she's excited.
I know that she's mad that she can't cook her turkey tetrazzini. I know that everybody loves that.
Exactly.
So, anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
The Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby commends Fran Molinari for her 21 years of service to the students of Brooklyn.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Thank you.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it. Enjoy.
Enjoyed your retirement.
Yep. Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the change of hours for the following employees for the remainder of the 2017-2018 school year, as noted.
Can I have a motion, please?
moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Yeah,
Mr.
a variety of things here, from classified staff members moving from sometimes like a preschool classroom assistant to a classroom assistant role, playground monitors moving to a classroom assistant role, so there's switches here. We've done some support within our offices, and so some playground monitors have some additional hours for the remainder of the school year. So,
Anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the following person for the 2017-2018 supplemental coaching assistant, with the provision that such individual comply with all Ohio High School Athletic Association rules and regulations and State Board of Education regulations pertaining to proper certification and/or first aid training, and fulfills the requirements of the job description attached to their supplemental contracts. Craig Morrow, junior varsity baseball coach.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Craig just wasn't on last month, so.
Gotcha. That's what I thought. Okay. Anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll?
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the employment of the following substitute personnel for the 2017-2018 school year: classified on-call Anne Marie Rose, custodial cleaner, effective February 21st, 2018.
Can I have a motion,
So moved.
please? Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Probably a familiar name there.
Correct.
So she's come back and is helping us with subbing and cleaning, so.
Great.
It's nice to
Welcome
see her.
home.
Anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the following resolution to abolish RC 3319.02 administrative positions and suspend RC 3319.02 administrative contracts in whole. Approve. Whereas Board Policy 1540, do I need to read the art?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Whereas RC 3319-171 Board Policy 1540 and applicable laws provide for the abolishment of RC 3319.02 administrative positions by the board. Whereas RC 3319.171 Board Policy 1540 and applicable laws provide for the suspension of RC 3319.02 administrative contracts in whole by the board. Whereas the superintendent has provided the board and affected administrators with superintendent's written recommendations that all of the following RC 3319.02 administrative positions be abolished effective August 1, 2018 due to 1. Financial conditions affecting the Brooklyn City School District. 2. Reorganization of administrative functions. 3. Consolidation of administrative functions. The Brooklyn Middle School principal and the Brooklyn Elementary School principal. Whereas the superintendent has provided the board and affected administrators with the superintendent's written recommendations that the following RC 3319.02 administrative contracts be suspended in whole effective August 1, 2018, due to 1. Financial financial conditions affecting the Brooklyn City School District. 2. Reorganization of administrative functions, and 3. Consolidation of administrative functions. Mark Tansky, Brooklyn Middle School Principal, and Patrick Yarman, Brooklyn Elementary School Principal. Now therefore, be it resolved that acting upon the superintendent's written recommendations, the board hereby abolishes all of the following RC 3319.02 administrative positions effective August 1st, 2018 due to 1. Financial conditions affecting the Brooklyn City School District. 2. Reorganization of administrative functions, and 3. Consolidation of administrative functions. Brooklyn Middle School Principal and Brooklyn Elementary School Principal. Now therefore be it further resolved that acting upon the superintendent's written recommendation, the board hereby suspends in whole all of the following RC 3319.02 administrative contracts effective August 1st, 2018 due to 1. Financial conditions affecting the Brooklyn City School District. 2. Reorganization of administrative functions, and 3. Consolidation of administrative functions. Mark Tansky, Brooklyn Middle School Principal, and Patrick Yarman, Brooklyn Elementary School Principal.
Could I have a motion, please? Could I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Again, as noted in my superintendent's report, this is the abolishment of those positions, the suspension of those, and then, in future board meetings, I'll have other recommendations, for the board on that and considerations.
Okay. Anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll?
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the County Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county fiscal officer.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
So each year at this time, the county budget office, fiscal officer sends us the tax rates for the school, and that is what I'm presenting to you tonight, the rates that are on property taxes here in the district.
Anybody else?
Mr. Street, what's the collection rate now, roughly? Any idea?
90, were we up between 95 and 97%, I think, because it's quite a bit higher than it was just a couple years ago.
It's inching up there.
Yeah, the economy has turned around, seemingly that the rates higher. I'll take a look again at the bottom of the sheet that I just got the other day and see what they have said.
And just to jump on that with Ed Polaris, adult education is down because in the heyday in 08 and 09, it was very high because everybody was looking for something else, and now the economy's doing so well, there's not as many people out there looking for, different skills for a different job position.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Okay. Just to know, the board will be going into executive session. We will have no other business after that. All right? Make a motion to go into executive session. Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education recess into executive session to conference with board's attorney to discuss matters subject to pending of imminent court action, preparing for, conducting, or reviewing negotiation or bargaining sessions with employees. All matters discussed in the executive session are designated to the public officials, employees, and confidential pursuant to RC 102.03B. Because of the status of the proceeding and/or the circumstances under the information will be received and reserving its confidentiality is necessary to the proper conduct of government business. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
7:28.
7:28-ish.
What time, Rocky?
7:28.
7:28.
7:28.